Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, you know, some technologies need to be developed or redeveloped once other technologies get going. Well, we're all carrying cell phones. How would you like to be able to monitor and be alerted to and control your transmitter or other remote sites from your cell phone and do it in a way that was built for the cell phone? Well, that's what Empower is doing. They're part of a bigger company, American Amplifier Technologies. Really smart people are putting some smart things together to help us as engineers. That's coming up next with Matt Rigdon on TWiRT.
This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Air, featuring Playout One radio automation software, comprehensive streaming solutions, website content management, and social media tools for maximum listener engagement on the web at AIIR.com. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts.
Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb there at the top of the tower. Hi there, I'm Kirk Harnack, here in the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee. It's getting into the dead of winter, and it's already dark outside here. As we're, Nashville is kind of on the eastern edge of the central time zone. You go more than an hour drive east of here, and you're in the Eastern time zone, and so it's already later there on the clock anyway. So yeah, it gets dark early here. The AM daytimer stations, man, they're going off the air any minute now. All right, enough of that. Hey, welcome into the show. This is the show where we talk about lots of things that have to do with broadcasting and the technical side of broadcasting. Sometimes we get into some legal issues, programming issues, some non-strictly technical stuff. But today, it's technical. We're going to talk about some cool technical things. And I've been talking to this fella named Matt Rigdon. Matt is our guest today, and let's go ahead and bring him in. Matt, hey, it's good to have you on the show. Nice to see you.
Hey, Kirk, it's nice to see you too. And thanks for the opportunity to be on the show and just have a conversation with you and with your viewers about kind of what we got going on.
Matt, what's kind of amazing is here, I'm in Middle Tennessee in Nashville, and it turns out, I didn't realize it until you brought it up, I guess when we talked a couple weeks ago, you're just down the road. You're down the road in a town that kind of grew up because General Motors built the Saturn plant there. I think that's the reason it's there.
Actually, the town's actually been here a lot longer, and I'm not a history expert. History was never my strong subject. But what I do know is that the town's been around a long time, but really, Civil War era. There's some different monuments around the Civil War and things like that. But it definitely started its larger growth originally with the GM plant, but really even in the last couple of years as more and more companies have brought their headquarters to Middle Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, you're in Spring Hill, Tennessee. And of course, that does sound like an old name, like, well, there's a spring on the side of that hill. Let's call it Spring Hill. Right? That's what it sounds like. Although if and maybe I've missed it, but when I drive through Spring Hill, all I see are fairly new businesses and, a shopping center that's probably not more than 20 years old. You get your Longhorn Steakhouse and a Ross Dress for Less store and lots of gas stations around there. I've noticed they've built a huge battery plant there, Ultium Cells.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, so Ultium Cells went in near a place called Worldwide Stages, which is interesting because it's an old plant, not the GM plant, but it was an old plant for something else. I don't remember what, but it's been converted to basically sound stages and production stages. So that's an interesting one too. But yeah, this massive battery plant got built. But crazy thing is I heard they're actually furloughing the workers already.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they built that at, well, I'm not saying the tail end of the EV craze, and I'm not saying it's a craze. I'm trying to characterize. Everybody was crazy for EVs there for a while, and now it seems like there may be less enthusiasm. And here's GM or a subsidiary or a partner company building Ultium cells, and the factory is positively enormous. I drove by it, not on the highway, but on the access road one day. And it's just like, am I ever going to get past this factory? It's huge. I don't know if it's bigger than the Saturn, or the formerly Saturn, now GM plant. It's probably not bigger than that, but wow. Anyway, hey, I didn't mean to digress. Matt, you're involved with a company that, as the chief technology officer, that seems to have grown by acquiring other companies. This American Amplifier Technologies, and it turns out the guy who started that company, I know him not well. I shook his hand once, met him in person once, and some of my radio stations pay him rent every month for a tower site on Mount Haleakala on Hawaii, on Maui. So anyway, just a lot of odd coincidences here. It's a small world. Tell me a little bit about the company and some names that our listeners will know that are now part of this same company.
Yeah. So American Amplifier Technologies has been around since 2008. It was started by Steve Wilde. So he's the one who actually founded the company. He founded it alongside, it's hard to call it a sister company, but another company called SWE Services, which is kind of a service team. But then since then, like you indicated, Kirk, we've grown quite a bit. One, just within the main company itself, but also in 2023 we acquired Shively Labs, which is one of those names that you were talking about that a lot of people have probably heard of. And with that came Shively's entire catalog of antennas, filters, combiners, all of that as part of our acquisition of Shively. And then more recently, and by recently I mean September of this year, we acquired the U.S. division of Kathrein SCALA. So again, another manufacturer of antenna systems and filters and combiners. We've acquired that as well. So that's just a perfect example of that growth that we've been doing through acquisition. And then Mana Towers was actually another acquisition of ours that was years before that, where we acquired Mana Towers of Hawaii and came with that a handful of sites on some of the mountains in Hawaii. And since then, we've expanded it a little bit, added a little bit more space, added some sites in Arizona. But then we've also created a new brand that's the Empower platform, or Empower brand. That's not actually a separate company as much as it is a brand within American Amplifier Technologies for this new remote control and mobile app that we've been pretty heavily investing in as a company to really give broadcasters tools to make their lives better.
Well, and that technology is what we're going to be talking about on the show. Some new ideas in remote control and remote monitoring, and the convenience of being able to, be kept aware of all that on your phone. Because, hey, we engineers, we're busy. We got stuff to do, places to go, people to talk to, and stuff to fix. And if something goes wrong somewhere, we don't, if you find out about it in a text or an email, then you got to stop your workflow with. Anyway, we'll get on to the techniques and the technologies involved,
yeah.
and who it's kind of right for. Hey, our show, we're going to take our first little break here and hear from one of our sponsors. Our show This Week in Radio Tech, episode 777 with Matt Rigdon. Our show is brought to you in part by AIR.com, AIIR.com, and they're a heck of a price for streaming. We all need to be streaming. My stations are. Check it out with my conversation with Ricky Lee. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month. All you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through Air?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming. And from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
You know, Air.com, headed up by Ricky Lee, is one of these companies that's a lot like American Amplifier Technologies we're talking about today and their Empower product, because Air is just really at the forefront of doing things that help broadcasters a lot. And as a user of their Playout One automation, they're extraordinarily responsive. If there's a problem, they get it fixed. If there's a feature that's needed, they analyze it very seriously and typically get it implemented in short order. So really appreciate Air.com. It's Kirk Harnack here in the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm joined by Matt Rigdon, who's actually just down the street, about a 40-minute drive. So Matt, as CTO of this company, talk to us about, the motivation. We're talking about a remote monitoring and control product that also has a couple of features that you'll get to eventually that I think are technically amazing. And I'm talking about the VNA, but I know there's other things you're proud of as well. So you've got a little presentation that you can talk to us about the technologies and techniques here. So take it away, and I'll interrupt when I get confused. Okay.
Yeah, please do. The reality is that we wanted to change the way we think about remote monitoring and remote control, right? Most broadcast products out there for probably the last, 10 years, maybe 10 to 15 years, kind of depending, have had some form of remote control capability, right? Whether that's SNMP, whether that's just a web page that you can monitor and control from, anything like that. But if you've looked at what has happened over the same 10 or 15 years, the Internet of Things has really become this impressive ecosystem out there of ways that you can streamline and simplify your life, right? I have tons of Internet of Things integrations in my house, from light switches to air conditioning controls. When I had solar, I had our solar system, had an app, and all of that kind of stuff gave me access to data that I needed when I needed it, and all from the palm of my hand, right? It was on this device right here, right? And I could take it with me. It didn't matter where I was. I got notifications when things were going on. And so the reality is there is an Internet of Things, or an industrial Internet of Things ecosystem out there for the commercial or industrial space. And in the years I've talked to different broadcasters, different engineers, right? People have found ways to leverage some of that technology in broadcast. But the reality is there hasn't really been a purpose-built platform for broadcasters that takes that Internet of Things or mobile-first approach to how to do the things that we as engineers do, and how to make it simple for us to be able to get in and do what we do and get back to doing the millions of other things that are on our to-do list from day to day and from week to week, right? And so that's where we said, hey, let's start with this mobile-first approach. Let's build a platform that's mobile-first. Let's integrate it with our different products. The reality is we're having some conversations with some of our partners even of how could we get that app integrated in their product. So it's not just about the AAT products, but really how can this become a way to change the way that we do broadcast engineering? And there are tons of other applications outside of broadcast for the same platform, because it is still using that industrial Internet of Things mindset. But our core audience, because of the business and the industry we're in, is definitely broadcast. And so that was kind of the mindset behind creating this ecosystem around this mobile app, and then building integrations with our products, and then ultimately building a remote control and monitoring solution that also uses that mobile first approach and that integration with the mobile app to really make your life easier as an engineer and get you back to knowing what's going on, responding quickly, and getting back to the rest of the stuff that you've got to do.
If I can make a parallel, because with some home systems, we've been doing this for a while, and my mind, my muscle memory is getting a little used to it. For example, so we've got some Wi-Fi thermostats in the house, right? And even the simple ones are not always simple. Like, I always want to grab the knob and turn it to turn the heat up or down, or the air conditioning up or down. But no, you got to push the button first, and then go to this menu, and then go to that menu, and then adjust it up and down. Yeah, why? I don't know. But you know what? It's a lot easier with the app. So I almost never touch the thermostat itself. Well, this brings me to my point. I'm out of the house. I'm doing some shopping. I'm running an errand. I'm on the road. I'm at NAB, and I get a text from my wife. Honey, it's too cold in here. Honey, it's too hot in here. Can you do something about it? And I pull it out, and with the app, I'm connected to it, and in under 10 seconds, I've knocked the temperature down 2 degrees or raised it a degree, whatever she's looking for. And that's just so much. I've realized she has to text me, and she needs the app too. But we're getting so used to doing things like that. And remotely, I've got, it's not a Roomba brand, but I've got a robot vacuum cleaner right here. I can be in Las Vegas or Maui, and I can start this sucker and let it vacuum my office, right? How about that? It can't empty. Once it's full, it's got to be attended to. It's not one of those fancy ones. And I'm sure our audience members and you can think of other examples where we have this kind of access. I can turn on the bedroom fan from anywhere, right? I didn't really realize. It said it was a smart bedroom fan. I didn't know how smart it was. Not after you plug it in, you've got to download the app and hook it up to the internet. You get where I'm going with this. We're getting used to this kind of convenience, and being able to, designing transmission facility remote control and monitoring to accommodate this convenience that's now in our pocket. Pretty amazing. Now, am I kind of going down the right path with the thinking on this?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? We're so used to it with all of the other parts of our life, but yet it's not been integrated or ingrained in the kind of mobile first approach to this other side of our lives, right? So many of us have that capability, the apps, even the smart speaker devices where you can tell it to set the temperature and do that kind of stuff. The funny thing is, I was talking to someone yesterday about this platform, and they actually half jokingly, half not said, "Hey, when's the Alexa integration coming to the platform?" And the reality is it's those kind of things that we need to be thinking about, because it does simplify our life. But also recognize with that conversation comes other conversations around, okay, is it secure? How do we make sure that only the people that we want to have access to it have access? And those are all part of the conversations that we're having on our side as we're developing this platform to make sure that we do it right, that we think through the challenges that engineers have as they go to sites. We're big believers. I'm a big believer in asking people for feedback and getting that feedback, right? Because you want to know, like, hey, is this meeting those needs? Are we hitting the nail on the head, right? Or are we hitting around it? And that's the kind of stuff that we're trying to do as we continue to build this platform. Putting it through our own paces so that we can really make sure, like, hey, we want this thing to be so simple for engineers that it is not something they need to worry about, because they know that if they need to worry, they're going to get that push notification from the app telling them that they've got a problem. That's when they need to worry about it, and that's when they can deal with it. Otherwise, right, it just is this thing that sits there and runs and lets them know when they need to do something.
Gotcha. Yep.
Which,
Okay.
Which, the reality is we get the same thing at home, right? When, I just installed an alarm system that has integrated sensors, and now I'm actually building home automation features based on door contact sensors that talk to my Alexa devices and then turn lights on when someone walks in the door when it's dark outside. Because you're right, it's dark outside right now here in Middle Tennessee.
Right.
And yet, so when someone opens the front door, the front entryway light turns on automatically because of that door sensor.
Wow. Then some would say, well, I just turned the light switch on. It's right there. So, but yeah, there are plenty of worthwhile home automations. Absolutely. Hey, tell you what, we probably shouldn't start the presentation just yet. We're going to take one more commercial break, but we do have time. Give us a little insight as to what we're going to be seeing. What should I expect to learn in the next 40 minutes or so? Why is this important to me? As part owner of 21 radio stations, I don't have any TV stations, and this is appropriate for both, for any kind of remote site, broadcast, radio, or TV. What am I getting ready to find out about?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through how the platform works, how easy it is to set up, and really then be able to show you, like, hey, once I've got it set up and it's doing what it's supposed to do, how does that then translate into the app? And so the nice thing about the way the app is set up is it is an app you get from the App Store, but we also have a web version of the app. So I'll be able to show you kind of how the two aspects of the platform really interact with each other, and why we're building this ecosystem that simplifies and streamlines your life as a broadcaster, gets you monitoring the stuff that matters quickly, and then gets you what you need when you need it. And I'll set it up with this. I had an engineer that we work with who installed our controller, and he was telling me this story about how he had set up the controller. And then one day he's out at lunch, and he's sitting down to eat a sandwich, and he gets this alert from the app. Hey, transmitter's off the air. So pulls open his phone, grabs the app, goes in, looks at a few things, goes, okay, everything looks okay. I think I'm safe to turn it back on. Turns the transmitter back on. Transmitter comes up, make sure everything's good. Goes back to eating his sandwich. I think the whole interaction was a couple minutes from when he got the notification to when he was able to get the transmitter back on the air and get back to his lunch, right? And that's the kind of thing, and that's the simplicity that we wanted to build into this platform and eliminate some of that burden. I think a lot of engineers have done the only thing I have on me is my cell phone. And here I am trying to bounce back and forth between my two-factor authentication and my app for VPN, and then my remote desktop client, that are all living on my cell phone, all so that I can get into a jump box that may be living at my transmitter site, so that I can then connect to my devices and figure out what's going on. And that's all after I've either gotten an email, maybe a phone call, maybe a text message about this issue. And it's, so trying to eliminate some of that unnecessary steps in the workflow to get you what you need as quick as you can get it, right? That's the mindset. And again, we're so used to it at home. Why shouldn't we get used to it in our broadcast environment and our sites and monitoring and control?
I'm thinking back to the days, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, and I'm driving down the road, and what happens? My beeper, my pager goes off, and it's a Q pager, which of course quits working when the FM transmitter goes off because it depended on FM subcarrier to work. And I haven't heard anything from my pager for a while. I wonder if KWLN is on the air or not. Anyway, yeah, you get your pager, you go find a payphone. Find a payphone, you call the station. I don't know what's wrong, but we've been off the air for 25 minutes. This is a far cry from that. It's amazing how things have advanced. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech. Kirk Harnack here, along with Matt Rigdon. Matt's going to educate us pretty soon here with a good presentation. I've already seen part of it. I didn't see the part when I had to go up and get up and go get a drink. But anyway, our show is brought to you in part by Henry Engineering and a product called Back UPS. This is a little bit like automation. In other words, it works when you need it to all by itself. So, the problem with UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies, is that a little bit too often they do get interrupted. And if you've ever had to change the batteries in a UPS, you still got to think about, well, what's hooked to this UPS? What is it powering? And just a great example is if you've got equipment in an equipment rack that has two power supplies, like servers, some broadcast equipment, not all, certainly not all, but some broadcast equipment has two power supplies. You can plug these into two different things, commercial power directly, or plug the other one into a power strip fed by a UPS. Great. Well, there's lots of broadcast gear or things that you need to run 24/7 that only have one power supply and one power cord. So what do you do with that? Well, of course, you run them from the UPS, but what happens when the UPS dies? And that has happened to me before. I've told you the stories before, and I don't need to tell you again, but they die. And then you've really got a problem. You are super duper off the air because you've got commercial power right there and your stuff's not running. And maybe you've got something like an Ethernet switch that takes literally 5 minutes to boot up. Boy, that's terrible. Well, Back UPS from Henry Engineering is a solution for this. Yes, you can buy much bigger AB switches that operate automatically for AC power. The Back UPS is far more reasonably priced. It's pretty much designed to have one of these per rack, one per rack where you have a UPS. And so you plug commercial power into one input and you plug your UPS into the other input. And normally it's on the UPS. Normally it's the UPS input that's providing power to the duplex outlets on the other side of it. But when the UPS dies, it switches over to commercial power, and then you can set the delay time for it to come back on the UPS. Let's say the UPS is chattering and it produces power sometimes, but not always. Well, you can set the delay time to where you have some surety that things are good before it switches back to the UPS. Now, I've got this exact box, and I think we've bought 5 of these so far at my stations, and we sure could use a few more. But we put them in the racks, and we feed equipment that only has one power supply. I've got some workstations with only one power supply. I've got audio processors with only one power supply. I've got Ethernet switches and a Sage NDEC and other pieces of gear that have only one power supply. But with the Back UPS, it's almost like you've given them 2 power supplies. At least you've given them 2 power sources, and it'll switch back and forth automatically. One of the slickest products from Henry Engineering since the Super Relay, and you know how much we love that one. So check it out from Henry Engineering. The place to get it is from Broadcasters General Store, BGS. The website is bgs.cc. bgs.cc, and they keep improving their website. It's really nicely up to date. When I need to find a price on something or some specs, or hey, is this still available? I go to bgs.cc, and you can call them too. They're really friendly on the phone at 352-622-7700 for Broadcasters General Store. They're in Ocala, Florida, which is far enough away from the heavy duty lightning, and yet it's still in Florida, so it's warm. They don't have too many snow days in Ocala, so they're always open, almost always open. Good folks. Thanks a lot, BGS, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, it's Kirk Harnack here on this December the 4th. We're talking to Matt Rigdon about this product called Empower. It's a remote control system that was kind of rethought in the days of having portable communications. Okay, Matt, you've got a presentation to go, so why don't we check into that?
Yeah. So what I figured I'd do is walk you through the actual Empower controller, which is the remote control platform. And what I'll do is kind of as we go through that, one, I think we talked about this earlier, Kirk, but if you need clarification, interrupt so we can just kind of walk through that. But
Yeah.
where I want to start is with the dashboard. So the controller is built around this dashboard concept. And so this is just when you're getting in and getting things set up, right? Because as we all know, before you can get stuff to the mobile app, you got to get all your stuff set up. And so this is our dashboard, and we've made it really simple. Adding things to the dashboard, instead of having to kind of build this visual interface or do any of that kind of stuff, no software required to run this remote control. You don't have to install anything on your computer to get the remote control set up. It's all web-based. And then you've got the mobile app, right? So the mobile app is then where you can see what's going on. It's also where you can kind of gather and collect all this stuff together into one place. And so we've got this really simple dashboard. But to add devices to the controller, we just have this simple interface for uploading SNMP MIB files. So the remote control, first and foremost, is built around this SNMP-based or IP-based workflow. And there are options available with I/O, but the reality is it depends on what people need. And so when someone uploads a MIB file, the first thing we do is our platform reads all that information in and pulls a lot of the data out to simplify what you have to do as the engineer. So first thing, when you go to import something, you give it a name, you pick your files, and you upload it. If it's a more complicated thing, you can add additional files that are supporting files. You can also, so by default, we enable all the monitoring, but you can disable that by default. Really helpful if you've got a more complicated device with hundreds of different things that you're monitoring. So you use that. We've also built a templating concept. So once you've built it here, if you want to take what you've built, and then move it to multiple places into multiple versions of the controller, you build your template, you export that, and then you reuse it elsewhere, which is really helpful. Again, from that trying to streamline and simplify what engineers are actually able to do with the controller. So after that, once you get in, you're able to pull into this, and you see we've built just a really simple interface where you can go in, you give it a little bit more of a easy to read and easy to understand name. If it needs a unit, you put that in there, you enable polling. Like I said, that dashboard, this is it. Just that checkbox. I check this box, it shows up on the dashboard. Choose how often I want it to update my data. I can do some basic kind of manipulation based on what type of data it is. I can even decide if I need to get an alert for this. Not everything needs an alert, but for those that do, depending on what type of information it is, this is where you set that up. I can also do some basic command stuff. And again, that we're trying to make it simple because there's enough information about how this particular object works that if I set it to 1, it's true, and if I set it to 2, it's false. When I enable commands for this object, our system has automatically figured out, oh, hey, there's a couple commands that you probably need. 1, true, 2, false. And so it automatically builds these commands for you based on what it knows. If it doesn't have that information, it won't do it. But where we can, we've built some intelligence into how the system works to, again, make it easy for you to get from pulling the data in to monitoring and controlling your system, right? And with any button, right, sometimes when someone presses a button, you want to make sure. We all do it. I mean, I've done it. I can't tell you how many times I'll be doing something on my phone, and I get a notification, pops up, and I tap the notification when I'm actually trying to tap the top of the screen in the app, right? So we've all pressed buttons or done things that we accidentally didn't want to in the app. So what you can do here is for certain more critical buttons, you can actually require that someone confirm it before the controller actually executes the action.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
To be able to choose which
we've all
ones,
done it, right? Right. And you can pick and choose, right? Because for some, it may not matter. But, let's say you're interfacing with your transmitter. Well, you probably don't want the transmitter off button not getting confirmed before it actually turns off your transmitter, right?
Or on, in case somebody's,
right, or on, right. None of us want that phone call when the, from someone going, hey, why'd the transmitter just get turned off? Oh, sorry, I fat fingered it on my phone, on my touch.
Right.
I was actually trying to just lower power. Instead, I turned it off. A little too low.
Oh, my God.
So then you've got, again, that adding it to the dashboard. And then we've added this other feature, too, because we've spent a lot of time making sure that the app is secure. We use some pretty standard but secure IoT protocols in the back end that are built for industrial IoT. But sometimes you still don't want that certain button available in the cloud or in the mobile app. And so that's where we've built this ability to hide some of those things from the app just for your peace of mind, right? And so we've done that as well. And so that's really kind of the basis of setting up individual objects. This is a particular kind of true-false. But for, let's say, a numeric value, this is where you go in and you say, okay, this is my percent gauge, right? Same kind of thing. Now, the unique thing about this is there are two ways that you can present numeric data on the dashboard. One is just in the table list. The other is with a fancy gauge, right? And because sometimes we want to just see some of those things a little bit more prominently as a gauge. So that's where this display as gauge object comes into play, where you can present it into the dashboard as a gauge. Same kind of thing here with how you handle the numeric values, but there's an understanding that you may need to convert those numbers. You may need to change from one unit to another. So we've built the ability to offset and scale those numbers and a little tool to help you get there, right? I'll use this as the example. So let's say, I need to go from Celsius, because a lot of equipment does Celsius reading, to Fahrenheit. And my system is, hey, it's giving me 730. I know that's 73 degrees. So in this case, I know first thing I need to do is get that to 73. So I'm going to pull it back. And then here, what it's now doing is it's done that, and I can apply that automatically, and it does it for me. It does all the math behind the scenes so that I don't have to figure out what these are. It just does it for me. But maybe I don't need that. Maybe I just need this to be the raw value of what it is. Oh, and so I cancel out of it, and it's back to what it was because I didn't actually hit save. Same thing as before, right? If I need to set up faults, I can enable my faults. And in this case, this is a value that I can set because this is just a little test device of mine. So I can go in here, and I can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to set a thing. So I'm going to say set my gauge, right? Pretty straightforward, super easy, and you can test it from right in here. So once you've built out your commands, all your commands show up here, and you can test them out and see what happens. Once you've got your kind of SNMP stuff built out, you add your device. Pretty straightforward. You go in, you add your basics, you choose that MIB file that you want. We support all the 3 standard SNMP versions, 1, 2, and 3. And then you're off to the races monitoring your devices, right? Again, trying to keep it simple, trying to make it as easy as you can from pulling the data in to monitoring and then getting it in the app. And here's the great thing. Once you've set this up in the app, in the controller, it is automatically made available in the app, as long as you have the app enabled and the device added to the app. And this is the thing. So adding a device to the app, really easy. If you have the Empower app, you create an account here. And that one is my other. You go here, adding to the app is as simple as scanning a QR code from the app, or just copying and pasting this client ID into the app. That simple. right? We really wanted to make that experience as simple as possible. So when you're in the app, this is the web version of the app. The interface is almost identical between the mobile app and the web version, but obviously fits and functions better on your mobile device. But adding it, literally, you click here. In this case, I'm not going to allow my camera because you already got my picture. And when it's enabled, you click scan code, and it scans that QR code, and that's it. You add that device to your app, and then you're able to see what's going on with that device, just like that. In this case, I am going to copy that and go here, paste it. May have already added. Yep. So that's it.
Matt, we're gonna
account.
We're going to take a pause right here. Seems like a good place to. And when we come back, you'll continue. But I'm curious if I didn't miss something. So much we can monitor so many things with SNMP these days. But what about devices that are not SNMP or even microprocessor controlled? What if I've got an older air conditioner or a whatever it may be? A simple. Are there interfacing devices that are available that I could convert, on-off things, into SNMP readable stuff? And we'll hear more about that coming up in a couple of minutes. This Week in Radio Tech is continuing with Matt Rigdon with American Amplifier Technologies, talking about this Empower monitoring and remote control that was built around the fact that we are very mobile these days. Our show is brought to you in part by Angry Audio. And Angry Audio is about midway between me and Matt. It's in Franklin. And Mike Dosh has developed some amazing things. Plus, he continues to offer most of the things that we love from Studio Hub, the things that Radio Systems used to make. A great selection of Studio Hub, because that's a great way to connect things together, makes it easy. But let's talk about the Rave Audio Console from Angry Audio. The Rave console is just an amazing little console. It's totally analog, and the analog console, it still has a place. It definitely has a place in this world. So the Rave console, it's 8 faders, 8 inputs, right? And it has 2 buses. Plus, it has a telco or a mixed minus bus. It also has faders. There are linear faders you can see on the right for the monitor speakers and for the headphones. You can also control audio for a studio. Of course, it has on-off buttons. These are really well designed. They're designed for heavy-duty use, I'll tell you that. The whole console feels nice and heavy. It feels like it costs a lot more than it does. The electronics for mixing, I tell you, that's one thing that Mike Dosh is so good at. He has designed electronics for PR&E and for other companies as well, including Axia and Telos. Mike knows how to design quiet electronics that have great headroom and have a fantastic ground plane so that you don't get buzzes and squeaks that you weren't expecting at all. Yeah, if there's a buzz or a squeak, it's in the source audio. I'll tell you that right now. You can see the beautiful meters from across the room. They're LED meters. Check it out from your favorite broadcast equipment dealer, the Rave Audio Console, RAVE. You can go to their website and check it out there just to read all about it. It's Angry Audio, angryaudio.com, and the Rave Audio Console. Love this thing, and there's a lot of them getting installed. Mike posts pictures of these consoles as they get installed around the world from some beautiful studios. A lot of podcasters are using these. A lot of people with home studios are using these, plus people who have a studio, an extra studio that they need, or if they're maybe a low power broadcaster. A lot of those people are putting them in as well. They'll last a lifetime. These are nice consoles. Check it out, angryaudio.com. Our show is also brought to you by Max Connect. And hey, what made Max Connect famous, they still offer. It's their connectivity, their 4G LTE connectivity from Max Connect. Basically, it's a 4G LTE hotspot or gateway, you might call it. It takes cellular data and turns it into wired or Wi-Fi data for you. And Yeah, I know these are available all day long from the different cell companies. They're advertising the heck out of them for home use. But what's different about this is that it gives you a fixed IP address. And in almost no case can the others do that. And it also gives you port forwarding access. So you can forward ports if you need remote access into something. Of course, you can also set up the firewall so it only accepts remote access from a whitelist of IP addresses. So if you'd like to close all the open ports in your firewall or ditch that extra studio DSL or cable modem that's only used for remote codecs, well, with Max Connect Wireless's static IP, you can whitelist that address on your studio router. You can also get high priority. In fact, that's what Max Connect Wireless is all about. You get a higher priority than other people on the network. And that means if you're doing a remote broadcast from a busy location, let's say a downtown parade, Christmas parade, Thanksgiving Day parade, if you're doing a broadcast from a stadium where a football game is going on, and you've got all these people doing their updates on Instagram and Facebook and things like that, well, you've got data. Now, they may have slow data, but you've got data because you've got channels and bandwidth that's cut out, especially for Max Connect customers. You can provide your own hardware, or you can get hardware from Max Connect. And they also can provide external antennas. So maybe you've got a transmitter site that is pretty far away from the nearest cell tower. Well, an external antenna can really get you going with a good signal that you couldn't otherwise get with just a little puny antenna, or maybe the antenna that's built into a phone. So check it out, Max Connect Wireless. The website is Max Connect, MAXXKONNECT.com. Thanks, Max Connect. Thanks to Josh Bone for this pioneering move that he really worked on a few years ago, and they keep improving the service. All right, our show This Week in Radio Tech, episode 777 with Matt Rigdon. Excuse me. And Matt, hey, it's time to continue. And I asked you about, non-SNMP devices. How can you help me out with that?
Yeah. So, as we built the platform, SNMP mobile first, but there's still this recognition, but there are still devices out there in the broadcast space, in commercial spaces, industrial spaces that rely on kind of the traditional analog inputs, digital inputs, or control-based relays. And so we wanted to make sure that we had an option for people who still need those interfaces. And so we did build a version of the controller that has exactly that built into it. And so we've got, in fact, the unit I have here at my desk is one of those units that has the I/O built into it. And really, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We've got the ability to take in your analog input, to take in your digital inputs, and then again, extend that data into the app. So even with those more legacy interfaces, you can still see that data in the app. You can press a button in the app that controls the relay on that control, which is ultimately controlling your system. And so, this is a great example of it. So I've got my demo set up here, and I've got these set of commands here in my demo, and I'm able with this. So I've got this relay and this status input tied together, and what I'm doing here when I press this activate button is I'm triggering the relay that's actually sitting here at my desk. And you'll see here, this state went from low to high. And that's literally controlling that relay that's sitting here at my desk. You can't hear it. I heard it. But when I clicked that button, I heard an immediate click of that relay when the relay engaged. And I'll hear the same thing in reverse. When I deactivate it, I'm hearing that relay click, and my status is changing right here on my interface. And so it's that kind of stuff that we wanted to make sure that we still gave people an option for that more legacy-based control, because we recognize and know that there are still quite a few devices out there that may rely on that, whether it's an old air conditioning system, even if you've got an old legacy set of door contacts, not the things like I installed at my house, but you've got these door contacts that rely on just giving a status input. Well, we can do that, right, with this version, and then again control it from the app. And this is what I'm doing. This right here is again the web version of the app, and this is controlling those relays right there on my device. And it's super simple. It's super easy. We really wanted to give you that ability to do that. You've still got this dashboard here, so you can see again the meters and what's going on with your different devices, and then and then just going in and setting it up is pretty simple when it comes to setting things up. Able to set your faults, and then able to set up your control relays even. And in this case, right, for some of those devices, sometimes you hit a relay. Well, I don't want the relay to stay on. I need the relay to only stay on for, half a second to do the action. I've built remote control interfaces before where, hey, I'm doing a raise and lower power button from that interface into a transmitter, and the raise and lower, how much it increases or decreases power is dependent on how long you hold that relay active, right? And so you hold it too long, and all of a sudden you blow past your power level because you've held that relay open too long, right? So giving you the ability to fine tune that gives you the ability to kind of make sure you don't overdo it depending on what the relay you're connecting to takes.
Actually, that brings up another question. If you're holding a relay and maybe watching the return data, watching the power level go up or go down, whatever you're commanding it, what sort of delay is there between something happening and you seeing it on your screen? There's got to be some delay.
It's really minimal. I mean, the reality is I'll show you here on this, because this is the I/O dashboard, which is just a straight list of your I/O stuff. If you want it in your main dashboard, you've got that. But there was probably maybe 500 milliseconds between when I clicked activate and when it triggered.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't actually hit the button. I love live demos. Anyway, so one of the next things that we recognized is, hey, sometimes I need the ability to automate things for me so that I can build some intelligence into what happens, so that when I need decisions made, I can make sure that certain decisions are made without me, right? Automation,
right?
And other decisions maybe need me. And so that's where, as I'm doing this, I'm making sure that I am building the automation that I want. Or I can use multiple points of information to make better, more informed decisions, right? I like to use the example of a room temp, right? If I've got a room temp sensor, but then I've got a couple other devices that actually give me kind of an idea of room temp. Maybe your HVAC system has a room temperature reading. You've got a room temp sensor, and then maybe your UPS or your IP plug strip has a temp sensor as well. Hey, maybe I don't want to just rely on one of those data sources to make a decision for me about if I need to do something like lower the power of my transmitter because the room temp is high, until I confer across multiple devices. So that's the beauty of the way the action system works, is you can take one or multiple inputs, aggregate those things together to make intelligent decisions for you, and then do and execute certain actions. And so in our action engine, that's exactly what you can do. And so with any action, you can go in and you can build a conditional action, one or multiple inputs. In this case, I've actually got this essentially self-defeating, but I'll use this as an example. So in this case, I didn't actually set that. I'm going to say my status indicator is active. So my SNMP status indicator and my other action are triggering this. And then from there, I can then build an output that tells me what I want it to do. In this case, I can use my relay outs. I can do an SNMP command. I can even send a custom notification to the app. So maybe I want to build an action and I want to have it do some stuff. But then instead of just doing it, maybe I want to tell it that it's going to send me a notification to the app that says, hey, I executed this action, right? So giving you the ability to actually send yourself a custom notification, which again then comes as a push notification into the app. Just like you get your Gmail push notifications, you get push notifications from your thermostat when it goes to sleep or any of those kind of things. You get those same native push notifications from the app right on your phone, and you can click from that notification right into the app and get to where you need to go quick. And so we wanted to take that same concept of what we're used to every day and bring it into what you do for your broadcast remote control.
I keep thinking of things that I need a sensor on at a transmitter site. And I'm sorry, some of them are a little off the wall. I've always wanted to put a tip sensor on the tower so that if the tower falls over, I don't have to find that out by driving and realizing I can't see the tower as I'm going to the transmitter site. I want to know beforehand that the tower has fallen over, from an ice storm or something. I also want to, for the few tower sites that have a toilet, I want a flush sensor. I thought about that. That'd be funny, but actually, what would be good to have is a flow sensor that you can get now, fairly inexpensively. On if your transmitter site is serviced by water, right? That'd be good to have.
Here's a great example. Maybe you've got the coffee maker ready to go for when you're going up there next time, right? And you want to hit that button from your app as you're getting in the car to drive up to the transmitter site. Now you got your coffee ready to go when you walk in the door. Right?
Oh, man. I was thinking of the margarita machine, but okay, coffee maker would be great.
Either works, right?
Yeah. Now, there are, I've heard of some sensors that are available, and I don't know how they would integrate into an SNMP environment, but maybe through one of those, like a sensor on a gate that may be a couple 100 feet away from the building. Right. I'd like to know if that gate got unlocked. And at the same time, of course, if you're communicating with we can put Wi-Fi at transmitter sites. We could even put a camera either on the building pointed at the gate, or now we can put I got solar powered camera here at the house because I couldn't conveniently get any power out to it. So I've got a solar powered Wise Wi-Fi camera on the front driveway. I guess you can do that. Not that the camera would be integrated with the Empower system. But there's some technology there to tell you if the gate got opened or not.
Right. Yeah, and you're exactly right. And the reality is we don't necessarily have all the sensors, though I've been in some conversations with someone who has a pretty comprehensive sensor collection, and that's a great example of they've got there are sensors out there, whether it's wireless with a wireless sensor gateway, whether they're Wi-Fi enabled sensors that do talk SNMP, where you can connect those things and then interface that into the Empower app via SNMP and then get that data. And then, like you said, then when someone opens the gate, when someone opens the door to your transmitter building, or maybe you want to know when someone flushes the toilet. Right. You've got all of that flexibility. And here's the reality. We are, there's so much more we can do with the platform that, I feel like we're just getting started. And that VNA or Vector Network Analyzer is exactly what we're talking about when we continue to build on this platform, which is we released recently now a VNA or Vector Network Analyzer version. And Steve Wilde, this version of the controller was his brainchild based on his own workflow when he does some of this analysis for customers at transmitter sites, which is he had devised a method to actually do analysis of your feed line and your antenna system while you're still on the air.
That's incredible.
So with
wow,
right, so with our VNA product, it is a full Empower controller remote control, not with I/O, just the controller for SNMP, but it has an integrated vector network analyzer inside of it. And what we're able to do is do time domain analysis and actually figure out where there are deviations from a baseline signal that you capture. And when those peak past a threshold, you get alerts. And our system can actually tell you at an approximate location within your feed system where those faults are occurring, which means, one, you're still on the air, but you're getting notification of potential issues. And really, you're getting, it's like an early warning system. And being able to do that without having to take your transmitter off the air so that you know automatically when there's a potential problem and you're able to do something about it. And because it's integrated in the controller, the beauty of it is you're then able to use the action system to actually do actions based on that, or trigger on-demand analysis when you get certain faults as well, right? So again, that the beauty of being able to tie all that together and still see that graph in your mobile app.
Just to clarify, we've thrown this term around, VNA. Does that stand for Vector Network Analyzer?
That's correct. Yeah, I think I had said that.
Yeah, you probably did. And it's and you know, we've also heard of, you know, time domain reflectometers, TDRs, and in the past when I had used one of those under the supervision of somebody who knew what they were doing, we certainly had to turn everything off. We couldn't, you know, use that while we were transmitting. But Steve Wilde and others come up with a technique for being able to make a baseline measurement, not on the frequency that you're transmitting, but on a different frequency, kind of outside the band. But this gives you the ability to monitor this 24/7, not just when you have to shut everything off, open the transmission line up, and make a measurement. You get to monitor this all the time. It's not quite a TDR measurement, but I would almost compare it. This is a CAT scan compared to the full MRI. Right.
Something like that. And I will say this, it's definitely not running all the time, right? There are reasons behind that. Just from, you know, you got to be careful about setting that in there, right? So some of that is just making sure that we're careful about how often we're sending that signal in, right? You don't want it to interfere with your signal, but by building this automated process, you're getting routine checks that used to only be able to be done because you'd have these guys come in and do your inspections, you know, maybe once a year or throughout the year. You know, you're bringing a crew in, they're taking you offline, you're doing all this stuff. Reality is with this, you take the system offline, you install it, but once it's online, then you're able to just continue to use it and run these automated checks. And like I said, you can also trigger checks based on certain conditions. Like, hey, maybe my VISWAR spikes, so I'm going to run a check, right? I'm going to go ahead and run it. And then and by doing that, now it's telling me approximately where in my feed system my issue might reside. So now I know that, hey, at about 75 feet into the system, there's a potential issue. Now I go, okay, about 75 feet. Oh, hey, there's a transition between the coax and the input of the antenna. Maybe there's a problem right there at that connection. Maybe it's, you know, we can't really tell you what it is, but we can tell you where to look, which then reduces the amount of time it takes you to get to that problem.
So to me, a VNA or even a time domain reflectometer, these are things that most engineers don't use often enough or aren't exposed to often enough to really know a lot about them. Now, certainly there are some certain consultants, especially in our business, and maybe there are plenty of TV engineers who deal with these kind of things on a more regular basis. Certainly Steve Wilde does. For me, I've only dealt with these things a few times in my career. A great tool. I just went to ChatGPT and I said, what is a VNA for RF work? And I got a great explanation here of what a VNA is, how it works. What is S11, S21, S12, and S22? What do those things mean? So, hey, I'm giving my tip of the week. a few minutes early. So, hey, speaking of tip of the week, we're going to have that for you coming up next. Matt Rigdon is our guest. We've got one more quick commercial break, and then we've got our tip of the week. So stay tuned for that. I don't know what Matt's going to bring us, but he said it would be good. He promised. So, I think he promised. All right. Our show is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics and the Bionics Studio. And if you're an engineer like me and you want to look really good to your broadcast organization, recommending things that work well, and give you a much better work product that is content, check this out. The Bionics Studio from Broadcast Bionics.
Welcome to the Bionics Studio. The Bionics Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
We're so lucky here at This Week in Radio Tech to have sponsors who are really at the cutting edge of helping broadcast be better, like Max Connect, like Angry Audio, like the folks at Broadcast General Store and at Broadcast Bionics. Really sophisticated stuff. I'm delighted to say that Bionics is a great partner with my employer, Telos Alliance, on hardware and software integrations. Really cool. Thanks a lot for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Bionics.co.uk. All right, Matt, we've got Matt Rigdon's our guest on This Week in Radio Tech, episode 777. Some people think that's lucky. I don't know. Maybe it will be. Matt, tip of the week is what we're looking for, and maybe you've got something for us.
Yeah. So, I've run national satellite distribution networks, broadcast networks, and I will say one of the most important things I think that any engineer can do is label everything.
Yeah.
And when you are dealing with an issue, when you're dealing with an outage, it doesn't matter, especially in the middle of the night. You don't want to have to go trace down all the information. You don't want to rely on your wits and your memory because that's going to fail you. You want to be able to look at that label. You want to be able to know what you're looking at and where the other end of that wire is so that you can get to diagnosing and troubleshooting and fixing your problems quickly. So that is my tip for this week. Label everything.
So do you have a labeler of choice, Brady or P-Touch or Dymo?
When it comes to labeling wires and things like that, Brady, hands down, just because they've got the nice wraparound labels, right, that you can print on and then you can wrap it and it essentially self-laminates.
Yeah.
Big fan of that, right? Because then you don't have to worry about, we've all done it. You get those those P-Touch labels, and it eventually just wears away. And so that's why I like those self-laminating ones, because it wraps the cable nice and clean, and the label, and then you know what you're looking at. And I'd say this: everybody's got their own philosophy. I've always been a big fan of what am I on and where is it going, right? At a minimum, the two basic things to put on the label. You can put some other stuff on there, but if I know, like, okay, this is my data port A on my modulator A, and then it's going to the switch to port 38. Now I know I go to switch to port 38. I know what device is plugged into that. Or if I'm looking at this network side, I can say, oh, what's plugged into this port's dead. What's plugged into this port? Oh, it's my modulator.
The whole science of how to best label something is, I think, pretty interesting. I've got some thoughts about that too. Not in disagreement with yours at all. That's great. I've always been curious as where do people get these big labels that sometimes they slap on the side of a big piece of coax or hardline, like top of the Empire State Building, where there's plenty of RF plumbing going around, and it seems like they have good size, beautifully custom labels. I don't know if they're just giant brother P-Touch or if there's something more custom that they had made at the sign shop down the street. You have any thoughts on big honking labels?
I think some guys are doing exactly that. They're taking those little brother printers and they're printing a big label, and then probably just running their own tape to laminate it. I've seen guys do that before personally. Yeah. And so I don't know that there's a secret sauce to that one, as long as you find what works for you and you're able to get it on there and make sure it doesn't come off.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the chance of just repeating my tip of the week, because I just learned so much when I think I know about something, but I'm not sure. Nowadays, I don't Google anymore. I use Chat or Grok, and sometimes both, and compare the answers. And it seems like I find out what I need to know. So that's my tip of the week, which I'll probably give week after week. Matt Rigdon, we got to go. Thank you so much for being with us. If people want to find out more about this mPower product and product line and what it can do, where should they go?
The best place that they can go is they can go to AmericanAmpTech.com. And that's how they're going to find out more information. They can also email our sales team. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick.
Well, I guess it's sales at AmericanAmpTech.com. Well, we'll put that in the show notes so people can. Oh, there you go. AmericanAmpTech.com. Yeah. Sales. That makes good sense. All right, good. I will have that in the show notes. We got to go. Matt, thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate you, all the time you've spent with us today, because Matt did the SPE meeting for Nashville a few hours ago. Thanks a lot, Matt. Take care. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And big thanks to Suncast for engineering today's show, producing today's show. And we got to go. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech.